Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about Halloween. Whether you go all out with scary decorations or turn off the porch light to avoid trick-or-treaters, we have something for you. Join us as we share how we've celebrated Halloween throughout the years, as well as how we celebrate it now. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about Halloween. And Halloween is one of those holidays that people can celebrate with a wide range of traditions. Some neighbors go all out, the scarier the better, while others turn off the porch light and pretend they're not at home until the last little trick-or-treaters are in bed. Mindy's laughing. Are you one of those, Mindy?
Sorry. No, I'm not, but that's so funny.
Today we wanted to reminisce about how we've celebrated Halloween throughout the years, as well as how we might be celebrating it now. And I know that the ways we've celebrated Halloween have changed multiple times over the years in my house. Like we may have started out one way with kid number 1, and by kid number 4 and 5, we're doing it completely differently. Is that true for you and Mindy? Is that true for you, Mindy and Julie?
It is. It is for us. Yeah, we've had an adjustment.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we've definitely come full circle with the way we
And I'm
celebrate
interested
Halloween.
to see your trajectory and like how your journey went, because I think this is one of those topics, like I remember talking about this a lot as a young mom. I can't really say that as an older mom I've had any Halloween discussions probably in the last, 8 or so years, but definitely before that, every year there were some Halloween discussions. And I was going to call my daughter, but then I thought, no, Pepper's only 18 months old. I really don't think that she's had any, are we going to celebrate Halloween or is it okay? But we had plenty of those discussions, and I'm sure that she will as Pepper gets a little bit older. Has Molly run into that at all? I know Ezra's only 2, Julie, so it's probably a little early.
Well, it's her favorite holiday, so
okay. She's
all
doing
in.
it no matter what.
And that's why it's so funny how when I sent you guys this topic and that question, when Mindy and I kind of cracked up together at the thought of how far we've come, and just those early days of we're not doing this to where we are now. And I'll include a lot of stuff about my daughter, like how it's become such a big thing with her. And I don't know, it's just funny.
Yeah. Well, let's start out with ourselves. Like, did you celebrate Halloween as a child? And listeners might be thinking, first, before we even get started, listeners might be thinking, what is the big controversy around Halloween? But if you grew up in, I don't know, what would it be like, an evangelical Christian home? Like, I don't know. There's just
the Bible Belt.
I don't even think that it's really just a certain area of the country, because my kids were preschoolers and in the Northeast, it's really everywhere. I think it's just a evangelical Christian thing as young parents to think, are we going to celebrate Halloween and what's that going to look like? Things that I may have not ever given one thought to as in my own childhood. All of a sudden, I'm responsible for this little child, and I'm thinking, what are we going to do?
Right.
So we'll get into that more as the episode goes on. But if you're listening and thinking, why are they even wondering if there's been a Halloween journey?
What's wrong with these women?
This is why.
We're all confused adults.
Yes. Yeah. Well, did you celebrate Halloween as a child? Mindy, you're the youngest among us, so you're the closest to childhood. Did you celebrate?
Oh, thanks, Marie. That makes me feel so good. Okay, so Bryce and I had some waffling years with Halloween, but we both came out of homes that waffled because growing up in the church, there was the phase where you were boycotting Disney. And then there was the boycotting Starbucks. And I think that unfortunately, sometimes things get confused. And as a family, my family, we would either one year it would be the fall festival at the church. And you could dress up, but it's got to be a Bible character. Or
always the shepherd, always Mary.
I could be an angel. I wanted to be a punk rocker. You can't wear to the fall festival at the church. And then also we were moving to different places. And so there were other years where, yes, we did do costumes and I did get to go trick-or-treating around. I never felt like I was lacking. It was just more like, hey, mom and dad, like, what are we doing this year? Because every year was different. So,
and that didn't stand out to you as inconsistent theology at all.
I was already moving. So I understand, like, my parents, just like Bryce and I, just like probably every parent out there listening, we are all doing the best that we can with the information that we have and thinking, I don't want to mess up my kid. Like, am I setting the right tone? Is this a good idea?
I mean, I did the exact same thing. So I'm not making fun of your mom. I can totally understand.
She would be laughing with us. We're like, yeah, we didn't, we're doing the best we can. Like, we don't know. And the church is saying, don't do this, during a certain time. And so you're like, well, we can't do that. Like, that's not right.
Yeah. Luckily, at that time, there wasn't any social media. So it wasn't like her friends turned on Facebook and saw that she'd allowed her daughter, Mindy, to go out trick-or-treating and she wore the punk rock outfit.
I mean, I do remember, and a whole nother thing, like I love to dance and my parents would be like, okay, you can go to the school dance, but don't tell the church, like, I hate to even say that. Because my family loved to dance and they're like, all right, just,
keep it on the down low here, Mindy.
Now you're telling the world.
No.
Yeah. Well, Julie,
my parents did awesome. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. My parents did awesome.
Julie, you answered with a resounding yes when I said, did you celebrate Halloween? So it sounds like you were right out there in the thick of it every year.
Yeah, it was funny. That's why this is so funny, because of the way I, initiated Halloween with my first child compared to how I grew up. I grew up way before there was ever even a inkling of a thought that Halloween might not be a great holiday to celebrate as a Christian, and it's so funny because it was my favorite holiday, second to Christmas. And I loved every aspect of it. And I remember my next door neighbors growing up, he was a pastor of a small church in our area. And every year their church had a big Halloween party, complete with haunted house. You could wear any costume you wanted. You didn't have to be a Bible character. This is where I went on my cake walk that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They did bobbing for apples, which my mom said, please promise me that you're not going to do that.
Because it was kind of unsanitary. That went out the window with COVID. No one's going to be bobbing for apples this year.
No, I don't know that anyone does that anyway. But yeah, we did bobbing for apples. They had a haunted house, and I remember like every year you'd go into this dark room, and there was black lights, and on this table they had bowls labeled like eyeballs, and you'd put your hand into the bowl of grapes, and then brains and guts. You'd put your hand into the cold spaghetti, and this is at a church. So, that was my Halloween.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because I don't have a lot of memories about Halloween. I don't ever remember my parents being conflicted about it. I just don't remember doing it a lot. I remember one particular year. Well, first of all, for a lot of my childhood, we lived 5 miles from town, which doesn't sound like anything nowadays. But I remember I was going with my friend's mom, who was going to stop at the different homes out in the country, and then we were going to end up in town. And I remember I obsessed about what could I be, because it was, my parents were not going to and I don't even know if these things existed, but we weren't just going to go to Party City and pick out a costume. You were going to have to find something around the house, something that didn't cost a lot of money. So I came up with the idea it was going to be a Rubik's Cube. But I really didn't think about the getting in and out of the car. Yeah. And I just remember getting this box and covering it with the different squares of construction paper and the different colors. And then I wore these black tights, tried to make myself disappear and just have the box be seen. But anyways, every time I got in and out of the car, I had to put on the Rubik's Cube, take the Rubik's Cube off, because you couldn't sit in the back seat with that big box. It was just not the kind of costume to be wearing if you're going to be car trick-or-treating.
That's a walking costume.
I don't know. Julie, are you seeing Sue Heck at this moment? Because I am totally picturing Marie as Sue Heck with a was it Sue dice when it was just
maybe. Yeah. I mean, I just don't remember a lot of other costumes that I had other than that failure of a Rubik's Cube one. But one thing I do remember, Julie, was I was younger even, I think, than the Rubik's Cube year, was our church, they had like a extra building on the property that was used for the youth house, and it was a haunted house. The adults went crazy making that thing into a haunted house.
Yeah.
I know my dad was something really scary in it, and as we went through it, and I feel like somebody even rose up out of a coffin when you went into a certain room. Like it was, we were just thrilled by that kind of scariness, you know?
Yeah.
So I do remember the haunted house.
I grew up in a time too, and this just sounds so cringy now. Neighbors would invite you into their house. They had made their own house into a haunted house. So when you trick or treated, you were invited in the house, and you walked through all the scary people jumping out and grabbing you. The black lights, like that just would not fly today, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that really wouldn't be something. But one of my most fun Halloween memories, and tell me if you guys had anything like this, but when you got too old to trick or treat, and by this time we had moved, I'll put in quotes, into town. I feel like I'm like from the Little House books. Mm-hmm. We no longer had that huge 5-mile drive.
The 5-mile drive.
We could now walk to school and participate in everything. Anyways, we lived in a really small town, and the whole downtown area, I mean, it was a one stoplight, maybe two. You could run around in garbage bags with cans of shaving cream. All the junior and high school students would be out just, you know, spraying each other, spraying the buildings. Like it was just crazy. It was the most fun. I mean,
I've never heard of that tradition.
Much. I remember just coming home stinking like shaving cream. It's all in your hair. You are just completely drenched. And it was just so fun. That actually is probably my most fun Halloween memory.
Wow, I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
I don't know
what a childhood, man.
I don't know who started that tradition, but it was a good one.
Yeah.
So anyways, but what were some of the other favorite parts, Julie? You had asked what were our favorite parts. Did you like the trick-or-treating, the candy, the costumes?
I think I was all about the costumes. I think I started thinking up next year's costume on that night. Like you said, Marie, my mom didn't necessarily go out and buy it, but she would help me put it together. And I remember for a couple of years, I was Raggedy Ann.
I can totally see that.
Most people don't even know who that is. I mean, I was probably like 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the little red striped stockings, and my mom made the bloomers and the pinafore, and then she took an old wig and took the hair off of it and put red yarn on it. And I think I won the costume contest a couple of years in a row at that church. And I remember being an old lady once with wire rimmed glasses and, you know, a gray wig and all of that. It was all just what you had at home or what your mom could put together, you know.
Right.
And I don't know, I just loved it. It seemed like there were hundreds of kids trick-or-treating. This is probably just in my memory. It seemed like hundreds of kids out on that night, and I loved the candy. And I think my favorite memory is just all of my friends would come to my house afterwards. Like your parents didn't go with you. You just went out the door and went, you know.
Right.
And then everybody would dump their candy and trade. You know, like, hey, I'll give you these Tootsie Rolls for those suckers, or I want the gum if you'll take my, you know, like whatever you didn't like. And then you ended up with the perfect bag of candy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it lasted usually till Christmas. Sometimes I think my mom would say, we're going to put this in the freezer because there's so much. It just seemed like a lot of candy back then.
Yeah.
Know?
I don't think there was any dental buyback at the time. You know, they have like, bring it to the dentist and we'll give you a toothbrush for every bag of candy. Like, I never heard of that until I had my own kids.
Okay, this is the thing. Do you guys remember the whole idea of getting your candy X-rayed?
Yes, I was just thinking that, Julia.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, I remember having to watch for razor blades, but we never took it anywhere to be X-rayed.
Okay, that just makes me laugh. I mean, where would a razor blade go in candy? I don't understand that whole concept. Like, was that just a whole urban legend? But I remember we had a friend who was a vet, and he would open up his office to let parents X-ray their child's candy.
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine?
I just wonder if anything really ever happened, or if that was just a myth.
I know that was back before news was on 24/7. But I do feel like there was a news report of hearing something like that, and so it was a thing. But I knew the razor blade wouldn't fit in my M&Ms with peanuts, so I was safe.
Like I don't have anything big enough here to
I do recall one of my favorite memories is one of the years I was walking around one of our neighborhoods trick-or-treating, and I kept hearing these people talk about the crazy guy up the street who had like a bonfire going, like flames were shooting out of the pumpkin's face. And that was my dad.
Oh.
I get home. He had literally built looked like a bonfire coming out of that pumpkin. It was like flaming through the eyes and the mouth, and people like that. The sucker was like sky high. It was hilarious. He like set that pumpkin on fire. I will say my Aunt Jenny, who is just this extremely talented seamstress. There were a couple of years that she asked months in advance for what we wanted to be for Halloween. And she would make the costumes, and the box, when it would come to her house, was such a huge deal to open up the box and see what Aunt Jenny had made for us. And so that was truly special. It didn't happen every year, but you knew if Aunt Jenny made the costume, man, it was going to be amazing.
Was it going to be better than the Rubik's Cube?
I'm sorry, man. That was just so awesome. Like, I was rainbow bright one year. She went like all out when she made a costume for us. But and then in later years, she actually made the veil for my wedding dress. So that's nice. And then Abby used it. So anyways, good memories.
Yeah. That's nice to have her around to do that. That's awesome.
Well, I just thought of this, and I have to give a shout out to all the people over the years, and I actually don't know that many, but this is why they stick out in your mind, that give out the full-size candy bars.
They're the best.
I mean, I can count on one hand that I even remember eating a full-size candy bar as a child, but our bus driver, he also owned a convenience store, in the off hours, and every year, the week of Halloween, he would bring on the boxes of candy bars, and you could pick out any full-size candy bar you wanted. And I remember I would get the full-size Three Musketeers and savor that thing.
Marie, that used to be my favorite too.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny.
And I remember even when my kids were little, if somebody in the neighborhood was giving out full-size candy bars, I mean, they are just basically raining money down on you, really.
They really are.
Yeah.
They're making it rain.
You hit the jackpot.
It's true. Word would spread like wildfire through the neighborhood, and everybody would hit that house.
Right.
So fast.
I always loved the house that just left the bucket out and said, "Take one, please."
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Like, nope.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. But you guys might not remember this. A lot of neighbors used to make homemade treats.
Oh, yes,
back in the dark ages. Like, we would have caramel apples or popcorn balls in a little Ziploc bag. Yes. And I remember my mom always said, no, she didn't want me to eat those, or she'd say, do you remember who gave you that? Or,
It's true.
But I always liked those the best.
Yes,
I thought that was really cool.
And you remember the houses that they tried to get healmight on us and give us a pencil or something? And I was like,
yes.
Gosh, what a letdown. Might as well turn your lights off.
We'll spread the word the other way. Now no one's coming to your house if you're going to give out pencils.
You can turn that light off and close up shop.
All right. Well, Halloween ends for you, around junior high. Halloween ends, and then you really don't think that much about it until you have your own kids. But let's start talking about once we had our own kids. I can remember Abigail was born in January, so she was like 10 months old when Halloween came around. And my mom sent her a pumpkin in the mail because we lived in Maryland at the time. And I remember I wouldn't put it out. Like, I was not going to acknowledge Halloween. Well, it had a jack-o'-lantern face. I was not going to acknowledge Halloween in any form. And I remember she called and said, where did you put the jack-o'-lantern? I think I said I wasn't going to put it out. I mean, that is terrible. And I remember that we did not celebrate Halloween that first year that she was 10 months old.
Right.
The pressure was real. It was real.
It really was.
I told you how I grew up and how my parents, we all celebrated Halloween. And then I don't know what happened between that and when Molly was born, but I had decided along with everyone else I knew that we weren't going to participate. So I think that first year, my mom and dad were really disappointed. They wanted to see Molly in her costume and take her to their neighbors so they could, let's just take her to the next door neighbors. And I think every year they asked, can we just do this? And I think that's how we kind of just did more and more. We were like, okay, we'll just go to your neighbors or to our neighbors, that we know. And then we started going to the church fall festival, and then it increased to trunk or treat at the church.
Right.
And then finally the kids were like, we don't want to go there. We want to stay in the neighborhood and trick or treat here. And so that's where we ended up.
Right. That was kind of our journey too, is when we had kids, and we would do the fall festival, and then we would hit a couple of houses that were just close by when the kids were super young. We were in Missouri, and I remember there were a couple of years it was so cold and rainy. It was really hard to get out, but no. So then Bryce and I had several conversations, because then like the church that we were at would have a fall festival at the same time as, trick or treating. And so we were kind of like, we're still celebrating Halloween. It's the same time. It's the same night. We're just going to a different location. And so we're like, we're just calling it something else, but it's still like, you're still celebrating. And so then as the kids got older, we found how much fun it was to stay in the neighborhood. And so specifically just getting out, and like everybody was in the middle of the street walking around, and kids are running from house to house. And it just gave Bryce and I such a wonderful evening with friends and our kids with their friends, that it turned into this kind of community thing for us. So we were like, we just need to walk out our doors on that night and see the whole neighborhood. It just was so much fun when it turned into that. The kids got old enough that,
like you said, Mindy, we were doing it anyway. So let's do it the way we wanted to do it. I have so many good memories of our kids' friends coming over and us trick-or-treating in our neighborhood. And it was fun. And then as they got older, our kids didn't want to give it up in middle school. They trick-or-treated through high school because all their friends did. And I know that sometimes people don't like to see older kids, coming to their door. So I made sure that they didn't do it late. But then they would trick-or-treat in a big group. And then we started having like a bonfire and a chili night, and parents came. And then I remember the first year this happened, one of the dads dressed up, and I thought, oh, that's so fun. We had never thought of that. And then it turned into a costume party. And ever since, the adults have dressed up. And I think it was maybe last year was the first year we hadn't done that. We did that for like 12 years. And it was such a sad night for me that we weren't still doing that,
Yeah. Well, what are some of your favorite costume memories for your kids? I know that these can bring back such fun memories when you see an old picture.
Well, I do think it's funny that, I started off not letting Molly dress up. And then, of course, she was an angel, I think, her first year. And a bumblebee and a mouse. And then by the time David came along, he was in a Star Wars costume with a lightsaber. The first year he went trick-or-treating.
Yes.
You just let it all go, and it just doesn't matter anymore. But one of my funniest memories, and I talked to Andrew about this last night, and I didn't think he'd remember because he was about 4. I had made a bumblebee costume for Molly. And so the next year I thought, well, this is going to be Andrew's costume. It's unisex bumblebee. Right. And he goes, Mom, I don't want to wear that. And I said, why not? And he goes, because I want a weapon. I need a weapon. He wanted a sword.
What about a stinger?
Well, I said, Andrew, do you remember what I told you? And he goes, yeah, you told me my stinger was my weapon. So we argued about that. And I said, no, it's going to be really cool. So he would walk up to everybody and turn around and go zzz, and sting them with his little stinger. But yeah, he was kind of rolling his eyes last night. He goes, yeah, I'm still traumatized by that. You always remember the traumatic years.
I know. Well, I'm not great with coming up with costumes, clearly from my Rubik's Cube story. So I loved that once I had finally agreed to let my kids participate in Halloween, then my mom started buying their costumes at Party City. And she would just show them the flyer and let them pick out what they want. And they would go and get them. And then they'd be able to use them for dress ups throughout the rest of the year. Then after a few years of her doing that, and she started getting a lot more grandchildren, and that kind of wasn't something you could continue forever.
That's the equivalent of the full-size candy bar.
Yeah. Then my mother-in-law took over that job, which I loved because by that time we had like 5 kids. She would start talking with them well in advance of Halloween, September 1st, what they wanted to be. And it did not matter what they said they wanted to be. She would find that outfit. One year, Davis said he wanted to be Elvis. And I'm like, oh, come on, Davis, that's going to be really hard. Yeah, she found the white tight pants, the sequiny jacket. She found a hair thing. I think it even went down below his eyes that he looked like Elvis. Like she just went all out. No matter what they wanted to be, she would find a way to make it happen. And I loved having that off my plate. I didn't have to come up with 5 costumes every year because that's really not my forte.
That's a great grandparent role.
By the time she stopped doing it, my kids were old enough to think of their own costume and either say, can I buy this? Or I'm coming up with this myself. I'm just not that mom, but I love seeing what she came up with.
I think my favorite Davis costume was the caveman.
Yes, the caveman. One year he had she found this awesome wig. He had a whole caveman outfit complete with what are those wooden things
like
that
a
they
club.
carry? Yeah, a club. Yeah.
And the hair was great.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was easy. So with Abby, we ended up finding like a go-to costume every year. We just changed it a little bit and it was a different kind of Barbie because literally Barbie has been everything. So she was a mod Barbie. She was
what's a mod Barbie? Like a modern?
Mod, like the 60s.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes. So we would do different kinds of Barbie for her. The boys, or she was a princess before that. Before we got into Barbie, she was princess. And then she dressed up like Jennifer Aniston as Friends when she got older. But but the boys were always some type of superhero. It was always something that was in our dress up box. We always had all this dress up stuff. So we had Batman and Spider-Man and Superman and Captain America for years and years and years and years. One of my favorite costumes for Grant was a homemade one again. He was Han Solo. And Bryce literally cut a piece of carpet and taped it to the open shirt on his chest. So he had a rug on his chest. It was the funniest thing. And he didn't get why we thought that was so funny, but we just thought that was the funniest thing. Awesome. But my most favorite, the one that has made me cry laughing, and we still have it, and Nathan will still put it on, is the dinosaur.
Oh,
the T-Rex. It's the blow-up dinosaur. It is the funniest thing, and he will dance in it, and he'll run in it. And it is just the funniest thing to see. And so that one just makes me cry laughing. I'm going to be so sad if he ever stops wearing that. He's in 8th grade and he still put it on last year.
Okay. Right. Those costumes are great. Those blow up ones. I mean, they never had anything like that when we were growing up.
Seeing those things run and dance, they're so funny.
They're naturally funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of hair, Andrew wanted to be Frodo from Lord of the Rings. So, he's a hobbit. So he has hairy feet. And we actually cut hair off of his wig that he was wearing.
Oh.
And I used spray adhesive on his foot and just stuck the hair. So he had the tops of his feet were hairy.
Oh. Was he going barefoot that night?
He did have to go barefoot.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah. So that was funny. Yeah, so I had made his little cape out of, I think it was felt, pants and a cape. And so I know David, he loved Halloween, but he just didn't want to put a lot of effort into the costume. So he went as a lumberjack year after year after year. He had his red and black buffalo check shirt, the hat with the flaps, the fur flaps.
Oh my goodness.
And then his jeans, and he would vary it a little. I think he had an axe one year, and then the next year he carried around a bottle of pancake syrup.
Oh, okay.
That's so cute.
But
that was just the go-to for him. It was like you could put that on last minute and it worked.
Right.
Yeah, talking about these costumes just makes me think of my costume journey, because you do start out I think Abigail was a ladybug for her first preschool Halloween. But by the time, I never let anyone be a witch or anything really controversial like that until the twins. And then it's like by number 4 and 5, they wanted to be ghouls one year or some kind of zombie thing. I'm like, really, girls? Like, look at all the fun feminine costumes that you could be.
Bet you could be a princess.
I know. And then finally, Lydia broke the ultimate barrier and she convinced me to let her be a witch. And that was the end of that.
Oh, look how far you've come.
I know. When I wouldn't even put out that little tiny jack-o'-lantern my mom sent to Abigail. And then Lydia was a witch.
This makes me laugh. I'm glad we don't stay the same as parents because Molly loves Halloween. It's her favorite holiday and she's 29. And she loves it so much that I guess Colin realized that and she got engaged on Halloween.
Yes.
So she got engaged during the afternoon and then they showed up at our annual party in costumes engaged.
Oh.
So that was a really fun night.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
A special memory. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So she's taken her son and he's had a costume from first year on. So.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the things that I see all over Instagram, so I feel like a lot of young families are doing this, is they have family costumes where like maybe everyone's something from the Wizard of Oz or, like everybody's something from a certain. Did you guys ever do anything like that?
We could barely come up with the one costume for the one kid, and I'm
that would take a lot of effort.
That's impressive that people go to all that work. That was never us.
No,
it's
I
always
never
so
did that.
fun to look at though and marvel at.
It is. It is very impressive.
Yeah. I think you can only do that to a certain point, and then your kid wants to be the Star Wars character, and your other kid wants to be this. But as long as they're not really protesting, it would be a cute idea. Well, let's talk about the main event of Halloween, candy. So if you were going to steal candy from your kid's bag, what would it be?
The Butterfinger bars.
Ooh.
Let's be honest now. Do you apply the mom tax? Does everybody have to let you go through their candy bag and pick out what you like?
Oh, yeah. Looking for those razor blades,
Under the guise of safety, I go through your bag.
Yeah. So you take the largest things out that could hold the razor blade. So yeah. And get the chocolate because it's going to be wasted on the kids.
Right. What would you steal, Mindy?
Oh, goodness. Well, I love that I like dark chocolate because that's not something that the kids necessarily like. And so my kids did all the candy trading too. That was the best part, was coming home at the end and trading. And so Bryce and I would be in there. I'm like, I'll take the Almond Joys. I'll take the dark chocolate. So those were kind of my two. And so thankfully they didn't really care for those.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids used to get thrilled when someone would give them 100 Grand Bar because they knew I liked them and they knew that would be kind of fun to give me. I also love the dark chocolate Milky Ways, those little fun size.
Yes.
Really, we've gone whole years without getting any of those. They rarely make it into the bags, but if any do, then I'm definitely going to take those. But
yeah, we did have to create the rule that each person had a bag and they had to label. So after they traded, they had to put whatever you're going to keep had to fit in like a gallon-sized Ziploc. You couldn't keep any more than that. Your name had to go on it. And the kids would hide those somewhere in the kitchen because they thought that somebody was going to, steal their candy or whatever. And there was this one year, this is still the funniest memory. Grant had saved a rare white Kit Kat bar.
Oh, that is rare.
It was in his bag. It had been in there for a while. And Bryce was like, well, he obviously doesn't want it. I really want that white Kit Kat. So Bryce ate it. Do you know, Grant comes home from practice and he immediately checks his bag. Oh, my white Kit Kat bar. That was rare. You never see those. And I told Bryce had already said he's never going to know. So I said, oh, he's going to know. And so Bryce comes home from work and Grant's like, Dad, somebody in my white Kit Kat bar. And Bryce turns red. He was like, oh my gosh. He had eaten the white Kit Kat bar. It's still a huge joke to this day. Dad ate the rare white Kit Kat bar.
Yes. Well, why didn't Grant eat it up sooner?
He was saving it.
It was just tempting Bryce day after day.
I know. We were checking their bags like, will they really notice if this one is gone?
Yeah.
Yes, they will.
Well, this might be a good place to share my worst Halloween story. They each had their bags. And I think they were in pillowcases. And they had dropped them in. We kept them in the dining room chairs. I don't know why, but each kid had their bag in the dining room chair. We went away on a trip the 1st of December to Disney World, and we had a girl from church house sitting so she could keep the dog, in the house. And she calls me one night and said, "Your dog has gotten into something and thrown up all over the house. What do I do? How do I clean it up?" And she said, "It has wrappers and sticks and all kinds of stuff." That dog, while we were home, the dog had not bothered.
I know, she made it like a whole month without bothering it.
Yeah. And so she decides to get into it, and wrappers, sticks, and it all came back up. I seriously think it hit every room in the house.
Oh my goodness.
Julie, that's awful.
It was awful. So I do not recommend holding on to it past.
Or at least putting it where the dog can reach it.
Well, it just didn't enter my mind because she hadn't bothered it,
Right. Oh my goodness.
That was a great memory.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Julie, you have a little way for us to rate some candies.
Well, I'm just laughing at this. We could talk about it, but we may just have to do it our own way. My son said, "Hey, Mom, why don't you do like a tiered list?" They do this on podcasts a lot. And I was like, "Okay, explain it to me." And he said, "Well, you have like your S group and then your A group and your B group." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what does S stand for?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. It's just S is the best. And then there's A and B and C." And I thought, this does not make any sense to me. What are you talking about? So it has some origin in Japanese culture because they do it for video games. And he said, I think in school there, they have A's and B's and C's, but they wanted to have a higher level. So they added S. So in Japan, S is above an A.
Maybe it's like super or something.
I guess. I don't know.
I used to get S's, but it was satisfactory.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
that wasn't
true.
so good.
Yeah.
So we'll make the S's the best.
Okay.
And the A's, the B's, and the C's. So
Okay.
And we'll try to come up with our own Midlife Matters top candy picks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So lead us, Julie, on our rankings.
Okay. I would put Butterfinger at the top.
I would definitely give that the lowest mark.
Yeah.
Oh, there's chocolate, there's
in the
nougat, there's toffee.
But there's so much peanut butter taste to it.
Oh, that's right. You don't like peanut butter.
No. Yeah. Yeah. We were on a car trip this week coming home, and Steve comes out of the gas station, and I'm thinking, I wonder what he got for a snack. And then he pulls out a big package of Butterfinger cookies. Yuck. That's not something I want to share.
I could travel with Steve.
See, he must know that nobody's going to take those.
I know.
Those
He does. He knows.
That's why I bought it. Yeah. All right. What would you put at number one then?
Oh, S? I mean, things that you actually get, either the 100 grand bars or the dark chocolate Milky Ways would be my number ones.
I absolutely agree with that. That is exactly what I would say would be my S category too.
I could go with the $100,000 bar. I love dark chocolate, but I really don't ever remember getting it in Halloween candy. That seems like a luxury.
It is rare.
It's called like the Midnight.
Oh yes,
Mars?
It's the midnight
or something
one.
like that.
Yeah,
yeah, they're good, and it's just their little small square. It's just perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so we can put the 100,000 as in the S category.
100 grand. That's
Yeah.
What about A?
I mean, I feel like I either like it or I don't like it. So I either have S or F. I'm either going to, I'm going to eat it, or no, I'm not.
Okay, if you had to put a sucker, Dum Dums or Tootsie Roll Pops?
I don't. Like
I definitely would do
suckers.
Tootsie Roll.
Yeah, me too. I like those.
Yeah,
I
over
never
Dum
liked
Dums.
Tootsie Rolls. What is the one with the bubble gum in the middle?
Blow
Oh
Pops.
my gosh,
Oh
the
yes,
Blow
it's
Pops.
Blow
Hello.
Pops. Yes.
Yeah, I used to really like Blow Pops.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was anybody like Twizzlers?
Let's see. That's the boys in my house.
They're okay.
Yeah, my boys like this.
Bryce loves those. Yeah, I do. Now M&M's is always a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
And Reese's
ever.
Pieces. That's peanut butter again.
I know. I don't ever buy like plain M&Ms, but for some reason at Halloween, that a little packet of plain M&Ms sometimes is just like hits the spot, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's with M&Ms, the big bags, it's too hard to stop. Where the Halloween little packs, it's like, okay, this is my amount.
I know,
Like
but you end up with like 20 or 30 of those little packs. And
True.
you still have to learn how to stop.
Okay, when I was looking up candy, it said the war on candy corn continues. Like, apparently, worldwide, it's considered one of the worst candies ever, but Americans tend to like it. Do you like it?
I like the candy corn pumpkins.
Oh.
They're shaped like a pumpkin.
Yeah,
They'll have like a
I know
few
what
of
you're
those
talking
in with
about.
the candy corn.
Yeah. I like it. I just can't eat much. It's kind of
I don't
It's
eat
really overwhelming.
much. Yeah, I do like having a few candy corns, though. There's just something,
They're nice festive colors.
Yeah. And when people put it with peanuts, that helps. The salty, you can put it in a bowl with salty peanuts.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It is one of those throwback candies, though. Like, I don't know if a lot of kids like it.
I did look up popular candies when I would have been trick-or-treating, and I had forgotten a lot of them, like the wax lips with the fangs.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever get the wax
about
lips?
those?
Yes.
And candy cigarettes, y'all. That is so funny. That
I love those.
We loved to
My
buy candy
mom never
cigarettes.
wanted me to buy them.
Yeah.
But if I got them on Halloween, I ate them.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, is anyone even make candy cigarettes anymore? Or are they just a no-no?
They probably make candy vapes.
I think you can find them in like candy stores, like old fashioned.
Yeah.
What about Pop Rocks? Do you remember those? I don't even know if they make those anymore.
I mean, I can remember the name of those.
I don't know, Julie.
And then Runts and Razzles. Do you remember those?
I don't remember Razzles, but I do remember Runts.
No, I only remember Razzles from the 13 Going on 30 movie with Jennifer Garner.
Oh, okay.
That's like that's her favorite candy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like Milk Duds, and they're kind of a older fashion type candy.
Yeah. And I just forgot when you said that. I liked the Whoppers for Halloween that come 3 and a little 2.
Yes. I used to love those as a kid.
Yeah.
For sure. Now and laters. I used to eat those, and those you don't see as much. You see more Starburst than you would like now and laters.
Yeah, the taffy. Yeah. Now I can't eat that stuff.
Yeah, I really liked the Sugar Daddies, those like caramels on a stick.
Yes. Yeah.
Those were really
I'd
good.
forgotten about those.
Those would rip your fillings out now, but
it's true.
There goes a crown.
we can't chew that stuff anymore.
So it's safe to say in midlife, stick to the soft chocolate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for listeners that don't have kids at home anymore, and like, what are you guys doing for Halloween? My kids thought this was so sad a couple of years ago. The girls were at a party. I don't know. I had some kids in college. One was probably already married. And so we missed going out. So we actually put our cat in his stroller and we walked around the neighborhood, and then we ended up at a neighborhood party where they had like the fire pit at the end of the driveway, and we just hung out talking, and it was so fun. But I know my kids thought, "Are you serious, Mom? You took your cat?"
That's so great, Marie. That's so great.
In costume?
No, we just threw him in the stroller. But now this year we have a dog, so I think I'm going to get something I can put on her to dress her up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the 1 month that we had Margot, our dog, before I returned her, it was Halloween. It was during October.
What did you dress her up as?
Well, I had a Wonder Woman t-shirt, so I got her a Wonder Woman little
that's
outfit.
funny.
And she had a little cape on the back. Like, that was so fun, like matching the dog.
She was living her best life for 1 month, Mindy.
Yeah, then if she would stop going to the bathroom in my house, she could have stayed. Bye-bye, Margot.
Yeah. Well, Julie, I know that you've still had people over, like, for a bonfire and stuff, Julie.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, for some reason, we didn't. I don't remember why, but, I'm still up for it if anybody wants to do it. And
yes.
Yeah. Last year, my sister had us over, and she had Abigail, Nick, and Pepper. And so then we all went trick-or-treating with her boys. So it's almost like, you want some kids that still like to trick-or-treat, and her boys were young enough to still want to. And then we just pushed Pepper in the stroller. It's like, I still want to be out there. I just might not have any little kids that are participating, but I still just love the festive feel.
Oh, you're so right about that. I want to just get out and go for a walk with him. But Nathan won't let us go with him. So literally, Jacob got off of work from Chick-fil-A last year at 7. He's wearing his Chick-fil-A uniform, and he got talked into taking Nathan around.
He could be dressed up as a Chick-fil-A.
That's all he did. Yeah. He didn't even change.
That's perfect.
He got so many comments, and people loved it. They're like, "Hey, where's my chicken biscuit?" You know, like people were joking with him about his Chick-fil-A uniform the whole time. And Nathan was the dinosaur. Like they were so adorable. And I was just like, I'm just so glad they did that. Because every year I'm like, this might be it.
Right. That is the beauty of younger siblings, because Abigail and Nick, they were in college, but they would still dress up and go trick-or-treating with Lydia and Lauren. But if they hadn't had Lydia and Lauren to go around with, they probably wouldn't have bothered. So like if you have those little cousins or those little siblings, I think the older ones are willing to participate longer.
It can last a little bit longer.
I think that's what stretched ours out, because then the party transformed from Molly's friends and their parents to Andrew's. And then finally it was a whole new group with David, you know, but the older ones still felt like, hey, this is okay.
Yeah. Keeps us all young.
Well, it changes a little bit, but I think the key is still trying to find a way to capture that festive feeling. So whether it is trick-or-treating with younger kids in your life, or having a bonfire and having people over, or decorating your house really cool and making it a place where the neighborhood kids want to come and trick-or-treat, like it can still be a fun evening, provided it doesn't rain. Please, no rain on Halloween.
I know.
That would always be the worst. You come up with some awesome costume, or you were prepared for warm Halloween and then they have to put a coat over it, or, you know, it's rare the years that you hit the temperature just right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to see and hear about what you guys decide to do on Halloween, and we'll try to post some of those things on Instagram this year. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see some, you know, message us on Instagram with pictures of your favorite costumes over the years, or your favorite traditions. You can come and find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. Or you can always email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But it's a fun time of year, and it's fun to think about. Before we go, let's do I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, this week, I have been on the lookout for the perfect skinny jean. I know that that means something different to everyone.
Yeah.
And if you're no longer wearing skinny jeans, then I'm sorry for you, but I am. And so
it's okay. Well, I want to know what the perfect one is.
Okay. I have tried on jeans at so many different, all my go-to stores, and I wasn't finding what I was looking for. And so I ended up at the Gap, like the regular Gap store. And they have a jean called the High Rise True Skinny. And so I do not like the jegging. It's like too fitted and tight. This, I was so happy. And it's not like super high, because they actually have a higher waisted one that's called like Sky High, but this is just the high rise, true skinny. I ended up finding the dark indigo color that I wanted.
Oh, that's
Abby
nice.
had already told me, like, you can't get the dark indigo with the yellow stitching. That looks old. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, thank you. So these do not have yellow stitching. Apparently that looks old. So
right.
I found the dark indigo color that looks good, and then a classic black.
Oh.
So these jeans, I was just really thrilled with how they fit, where they stopped on my ankle. They're just the right skinny without, you know what I mean? It's hard to describe, but you know, we're all shaped different. For me, these were awesome, and I am completely thrilled. I feel like I'm ready for winter. Ready, you know, for all the sweaters.
You can find
and
the
boots.
right pants. Now you can feel like you're prepared.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. So
let me ask you this. Were they the right length? You didn't have to go tall. You could buy just the regulars?
Yes, I was able to buy just the regulars. And Julie, the dark indigo, the only pair in my size was a tall, and they were way too long. I mean, way too long. And so I tucked the ankle under, and I'm trying to decide, I might just cut it off, because you know that frayed bottom looks really cute right now. So I'm like, I'm either just going to leave it tucked, which looks great, nobody could tell, or I'm just going to cut the bottom. But I'm like, they actually fit perfect. I don't care that they're too long. I'll find a way. I'm buying these things.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. We all want that perfect skinny jeans. And If you're also wondering what you should wear this fall, go back and listen to last week's episode where we talked all about fashion. Yeah. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
All right. I'm a fan of a documentary. It's called The Way Down: God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin. And this is a documentary on HBO Max, which we did not even have, but we got the trial just for it. I was very intrigued by it because I actually did a Bible study in 1992 called The Way Down, WEIGH. And it's a Bible study that Gwen Shamblin developed. And it was really more just an encouragement. It's about intuitional eating. You only eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full. It really is that simple. But it was a 12-week course on encouraging you how to do that. She has since, moved to Nashville, started a church here, and I was just always very curious about that church because it is within 5 miles of our house. So the documentary is all in Brentwood. I mean, it's just everything you see. It's like, I know this house, I know this neighborhood, And if you don't know anything about her, she did die in a plane crash in May of this year. And she and her husband, son-in-law, and 3 other people. But the documentary was already in the works when.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, but they've obviously gone back because the opening scene of the first episode is the search and rescue at the lake looking for her plane. So, so there's 3 episodes, and then next year will be 3 more. But
yeah,
it's very interesting. Yeah. I used to joke that it was a cult, because I didn't know about it. It seemed kind of secretive. And after you watch it,
it really is.
It's a full-on cult that's quite scary. And I really enjoy psychology. And I'm just always amazed at like how you get people to sign up for this much control in their lives. Like it's fascinating. Like, gosh, why aren't the red flags flying in front of you? I just wonder how that all comes together.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm a fan this week of something. It's kind of weird. I'm a fan of it, but I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on it. So we were at the beach last week, and my daughter has Instacart. She uses it all the time, and I hate going to the grocery store. So before we ever left, she's like, why don't you just let me order it on Instacart, and we'll have it delivered? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I could go to the grocery store, but she's like, let's just do Instacart.
Oh,
you guys, it was so easy. Like they delivered it right to our place. And you could see on the app, like, okay, they're shopping for you now, Mom. Okay, they're going to be delivering it soon. Like it was, you could, as she's shopping, you can tell them, oh, I need this, or can you add this to the order? Like it was so convenient. And then, so we used it that first night, and then near the end of the week, you're always running out of food. And I was like, well, we could go to the grocery store. And she's like, let's just do Instacart again. And I think we ordered stuff at like maybe 8:30 in the morning, and it was there by 9:30. Now, they give you a longer window. I think they may have said could be 2 to 3 hours, but it really came in an hour. So it just is a lot easier than I thought. I don't know what my hang up is. I think in midlife, if I survived going to the grocery store all the years of raising 5 kids, why, when I'm practically an empty nester, do I need someone delivering groceries?
I know.
I definitely have time to go, but I just hate going so much. But on the other hand, I feel like, is Instacart too self-indulgent? So I'm interested in what listeners think. Do you use Instacart? Should I pull the trigger? Who's out there to kind of push me over the edge?
Well, at the beach, that is the worst part. When you've driven there and you're tired and you're checking in, the last thing you want to do is spend 2 hours at a grocery store, because you do buy a lot of food and the lines are long sometimes. And I know I did try that on our last beach trip, in the last family beach trip, and it was summer. And then the only thing I would say is it was very crowded. It was check-in day, and no one picked up our order. Like you have to have a shopper to pick it up, and they were so overwhelmed, no one picked it up, and so that our food came the next day. So I still had to go to the grocery and get food, and that was kind of frustrating. Yeah.
Right.
So if it's not a peak time, probably work better.
But I mean, should I just use it? Like even this morning, I placed a Walmart pickup order, but I don't want to go down to Walmart and get it. If I had Instacart, they would just put it outside my door.
I struggle with that thought. I'm like, that's so extra to do that.
I can't justify the cost with food already tripled in price. I just can't justify the cost.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the cost. I think Abigail said it's like $99 a year, and then you do give a tip, and that's like within the app. But I thought it was going to be they delivered, and you had to make your decision on the tip at the last second, and you don't know if you're doing enough. She said, Mom, it's so easy. You just pick something on the app. It's already included. Like, no one's standing there with their hand out at the last moment, and you have to have cash and make a decision on a tip.
Okay.
It's like, it's already done. You don't even have to speak to anyone. They're just going to lay it on the porch and walk away. And so that was one of the things that got easier in my mind about Instacart. But I still can't get over the hurdle of, can't you just go to the grocery store?
I know.
I don't know, but for $100, never have to go in the grocery store. I don't know. That's kind of worth it. So that's why I want listener opinions. You know how I make a decision by now after 3 years. I need lots of opinions. Should I do Instacart or not?
Right. Lots of research there. I know. I'm interested too. I feel like if you started down that path, like I would never go back.
Well, and you said you have to drive a lot farther to stores than you used to, Mindy. So I feel like this would almost be a no-brainer for you. Like you'd make up the cost just in your gas money.
Right. But I also am already out there. So
yeah,
I'm already out there. So I feel like, okay, come on, Mindy, you're not working full time. Like get your butt to the store.
Why do we feel so guilty? So I don't know, listeners, we need opinions out here. Are other midlife women nearing empty nest using Instacart? Show us, tell us. We want to know. All right. Well, thanks for talking about Halloween. I'm excited for this weekend. We'll be doing some Halloween things, and hopefully we have good weather, like we said. And listeners, we hope you have a great Halloween too.
This was fun, and fun to think back and hear your memories, your costumes. I'll never forget that Rubik's Cube.
We didn't take a lot of pictures at that time period, so I don't know if I have a picture of the Rubik's Cube. But
try to get your mom to dig up a picture.
I'll ask her if she has a picture of the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, I'm going to be digging up some pictures this week. So
okay.
Yeah, great. I want to see all y'all's good memories.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye, girls.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.